While there was no game that happened on Sunday today, and that the action from this week, MLS Matchweek number 15, happened on Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday, I actually decided to do the review until now, and that I could have easily done it earlier today or yesterday when the final game concluded, but I decided to do it now because today it was sweltering hot right here where I live. Like, right now, it has cooled down a little bit because the sun have just set and that the temperature have now gone down to the mid 70s. But there was one point in this afternoon where the temperature actually got as high as 96 degrees, and that my room temperature actually got as high as 115 degrees. And you know that there was no way in the world I could do this review when I am sitting in a room that is 115 degrees. Like, I would have probably even passed out from heat exhaustion by the time I get to this because of how hot the room was. And right now the room is still kind of feel a little bit warm, but it's definitely not as hot as it was a couple of hours ago when the sun was still up and that the room was at 115 degrees. But still, having said that, I kind of want to get this done as quick as possible so that, you know, I don't feel that kind of heat exhaustion by the time I get to like near the end of this video. So with that being said, let's actually jump straight into the first game. And also, before I actually talk about the first game, despite the fact that most of these teams coming into this match week are missing some of their key players due to international duty, they actually did pretty well. Like, there wasn't any, like, most of the games during this match week were pretty exciting, and there was definitely a lot of action and a lot of scoring that happened during this week and a lot of goals that was scored. But the first game that I'm going to be talking about is kind of the opposite of that. And, you know, this game, like many of the game that I'm going to be talking about, is a game where both teams are missing some of their key starters, with Montreal missing Piatti in this game and that they're going to miss Piatti for the next couple of weeks. And Seattle, their entire attacking force and that starting 11 on their attacking side was basically all missing in this game because of international duty. So guys like Ruidíaz, Christian Rodon, Morris, and Ladero all out of this game because they're with their respective national team. And I guess with the way that, you know, this game being kind of a boring game, it only makes sense the fact that when you have one team that are missing their best starter and they tend to have like a grind out kind of tactics when they're missing that key starters, and then you also have one team that basically are just starting reserve kind of attacking players in the starting 11, you knew that this is going to be probably a very boring game. And that was especially the case in the first half, where nothing actually happened. Like, if you actually watch the highlights on the MLS YouTube channel or even on MLSsoccer.com, you will see how they basically just show like the kickoff of the first half and immediately skip to the second half on the next clip. That's how boring things have got in the first half. But in the second half, things eventually did kind of picked up. Seattle was able to get on the board first when Rodriguez scored on a penalty. But Montreal themselves had earned a penalty, and it was Sophia Taidia that was able to put it away to tie the game up at 1 apiece. And then Taidia 4 minutes later, which scored the go-ahead goal from Brownie. And I wrote, was this actually a shot from Brownie? Because when you look at the sequence of this play, it looked like when Brownie basically passed the ball to Taidia in the back post, it wasn't really a pass. I mean, it looked like he was trying to curl it to the bottom left corner, but he got it absolutely wrong. And that Taidia was just in the right place at the right time, kind of redirect that poor curler shot by Brownie and basically tapped it into the back of the net to get the go-ahead goal. And, you know, I don't know if that was the case, but I'm pretty sure Brownie, Taidia, and the whole Montreal team wouldn't care how that sequence plays out because, like I said, they got the go-ahead goal, and they also end up getting the winning goal in that sequence too, because Montreal was able to hang on in this game. Well, I wouldn't say they were able to hang on in this game. I mean, Seattle, they really threatening. They really didn't threaten at all in this game, and the stats really kind of show where they only had 2 shots in this game compared to 10 that Montreal has. 1 shot on goal compared to 3 that Montreal has. No shots off target compared to 6 that Montreal has. 1 shot that was blocked for each team, and 47% possession compared to 53% possession. If there is any Sounders fans that is watching this video right now, let me know in the comments below when is the last time that Seattle has that few of a shot in a game, because I don't think the Sounders, like, I know in some games they didn't really have a lot of shots on the road this season, but only 2 shots in this game in the entire 90 minutes. Yeah, that is something not only we don't see it very often, but when you have that happen, you know that you're gonna most likely going to lose in this game, and that is exactly what happened to the Sounders. And because the Sounders lose this game, that now extend their losing streak to 3 games. And I know there are going to be a lot of panic right now for Sounders fans, to knowing that they have now dropped 3 in a row. But at the same time, this is what happened when you are missing a lot of your key starter. And this is also why I said a couple of weeks ago when they were playing against Sporting KC, why that was a big game for them, and it felt like it should be a must-win game for them, even though they were kind of like at the top of the Western Conference, because I know they're going to miss a lot of key starters due to international duty heading into the Gold Cup break and after the Gold Cup break, and these are going to be the games where they're gonna drop points and also not able to earn some points. And right now they're gonna have to kind of endure that, and hopefully by the time when they do get most of these guys back, which I'm assuming they'll probably get most of these guys back in the beginning of July, they will still be above the red line in the Western Conference. Like, it's going to be very hard to try to do that, because the Western Conference, unlike the Eastern Conference, is very competitive, and even if you have a slump that is going on, it doesn't take much for that to cause you tumble down the table, and next thing you know, you find yourself below the red line. But moving on, in the next game, as I accidentally dropped the pen there, is NYCFC. So they absolutely destroyed FC Cincinnati in this game as they won 5-2. And this game was not only one-sided, but it was kind of a little bit weird too. I mean, you know, NYCFC, they actually scored all 7 goals in this game. And I know the score says 5-2, but they actually scored 2 own goals in this game. And they pretty much did exactly what Seattle did last week against Dallas by scoring 2 own goals in this game. And one thing that I also didn't put on the board in this game is that Pep Guardiola actually came to Yankee Stadium to watch this game, and I'm not quite sure did that had any influence with the fact that NYCFC was just playing some Man City level kind of soccer in this game. Like, the goals that they have scored in this game was just some next level kind of goals, and just some Man City kind of type of goals that they score. And you know, they just play some of the most beautiful soccer that I've ever seen a team play in a game, in this one against FC Cincinnati. And they started that when Matrita scores from Morales to make it 1-0 in favor of NYCFC. Morales ended up having 3 assists in this game and scoring a goal, so he had a monster game in this one. Then Hebert scores from Tinnerholm and Morales to give NYCFC a 2-0 lead. Then Tajuri Shradi add another one for NYCFC from Tinnerholm and Aber to make it 3-0 in favor of NYCFC. And if you're a neutral, I think at that point you pretty much can just turn off the TV. And I think for FC Cincinnati fans also, I don't blame the fact that they would just turn off their TV at that moment, because you know that FC Cincinnati is not going to come back from a 3-0 deficit. Now, they eventually did get one back, and this is where I get to the fact that they were benefit from NYCFC scoring one of the 2 own goal, and both of these own goals were very unfortunate. You know, this own goal was because a free kick that was coming in, and a cross from the free kick was coming into the box, and Aber unfortunately hit that one into his own net, which it does happen sometimes where whenever a cross or a free kick comes into the box, sometimes defenders, they accidentally kind of screw that one into their own net, and that exactly what happened to Aber in this situation. But Aber did eventually make it up in the second half when he scored from Morales to make it 4-1 in favor of NYCFC. But then FC Cincinnati would get another benefit of the doubt for the NYCFC scoring an own goal in the 76th minute, and I believe it's Ibaka that scores this own goal. I think that's how you pronounce his name. And basically what happened in this situation was originally the NYCFC goalkeeper saved a shot, but unfortunately as he was trying to parry that shot, it went right off of Ibaka, who basically puts it into his own net. Again, very unfortunate that happened, and in many ways I think this is probably more unfortunate than the Aber own goal, because it just kind of ricocheted right off of Ibaka, who just puts it into his own net. So yeah, at that point it was 4-2, but it seemed like every time when NYCFC score an own goal, they just seem like they need to get at least a goal back, and that is exactly what happened right as we head into stoppage time, when Morales scores from Castellano to make it 5-2 in this game. And a little fun fact and a little strange fact for NYCFC is that they actually become the first team to win a game despite scoring 2 own goals in this one. And in many ways, they basically just taught Seattle of how to actually win a game despite the fact that you scored 2 own goals in this one. And in terms of the shots in this game, for NYCFC, they had 20 shots compared to 15 that FC Cincinnati has. 9 shots on goal compared to 4 that FC Cincinnati has. 7 shots off target compared to 4 that FC Cincinnati has. 4 shots that was blocked compared to 7 that FC Cincinnati has. And NYCFC had 60% possession compared to 40% possession that FC Cincinnati has. And, for NYCFC, I said in the preview that this surely has to be 3 points for them, considering they're playing a struggling FC Cincinnati side, and indeed it was. They got all 3 points in this game, and they did it in convincing fashion. While for FC Cincinnati, yeah, it just gets worse and worse every single game. Like, earlier in the season for FC Cincinnati, one of the biggest struggle and one of the biggest problem why they cannot win games is that they just cannot score goals. Now, one of their biggest problem in terms of not winning games is not just because they can't score goals, but they also cannot defend. Like, I think they have now given up 18 goals in the last 4 games. Yeah, that is not very good, and especially if you cannot score too, that is just a double whammy, and that is kind of the result of why they're getting a lot of blowouts and getting a lot of games where they just have just flat out embarrassed in these last couple of games. But moving on into the next match is another exciting game between TFC versus Sporting KC, or another exciting game between both of these teams that ended in a 2-2 draw. And, despite the fact that this was an exciting game, there was definitely some very controversial moment, and I think for TFC, or if you're a TFC fan, you will definitely be very frustrated with the referee in this game, because in the first half, Gutierrez scores on a penalty, and that this was one of the 2 penalty that TFC conceded, and one of the 2 very questionable penalty that they conceded. And what was questionable about this one was that there was 2 things that made this very questionable. One of them is that did Morrow basically, or not Morrow, but did Drew Moore kind of when he kind of grabbed into the neck of Jerso there, did Jerso kind of made a bit of a meal out of that and kind of embellished a little bit and went down a little bit too easily. The second thing that is questionable about this penalty is that did that foul happen inside the box or outside the box? Because it was literally right on the line of the 18-yard box. And I think when I look at it, to answer those 2 questions, I think the first question is that yes, that is definitely a foul. And although Jerso kind of embellished a little bit when Drew Moore decided to grab his hand into the neck of Jerso. Yeah, you know that when that happens, a lot of players are going to try to embellish it and try to make it meal out of it, because that's basically hands to the face. And I won't be surprised if Drew Moore on Wednesday, when Disco basically started to hand out some fines, that he's going to be on that list too, because when you decide to put your hand into the neck of an opponent, that is a violation of league policy of hands to the face. Now, the good news for TFC is that, actually, that was the answer for the first questionable call. The second questionable call was that actually the inside the box when the foul was committed, or outside the box? To me, it looks like it was inside the box. And while Jerso kind of fall outside of the box when that foul happened, and it's all about when the foul happens. You see many times when players kind of fall out of the box, and that referee doesn't give that as a, referee gave that a penalty because the foul occurred inside the box. It's exactly the same case here, where Drew Moore basically fouled Jerso inside the box, and Jerso basically kind of embellished a little bit and fall onto the ground. And while he was falling onto the ground, he basically fall it outside of the box. So in many ways, I think that was a good call by the referee. I know TFC fans will not be happy with that call, but they eventually do get one back from De Leon, from Moro, and Pozuelo to tie the game up at 1 apiece. But then in the second half, that's when the second controversial penalty happened. And once again, Gutierrez was able to put away this penalty. Now, this one, I do kind of agree with TFC fans in terms of them thinking that this wasn't a penalty, because originally this was actually not called a penalty when Quinton Westberg, the TFC goalkeeper, basically did a sliding challenge on Gutierrez, and it looks like Westberg actually got the ball. And when they actually go to VAR in that instant, the referee actually overturned that call, and I was actually a little bit surprised that they overturned that call, because I thought Westberg got the ball. I don't think, if anything, maybe Westberg kind of took out Gutierrez a little bit too harshly, and the referee might think that, yeah, even though the goalkeeper got the ball, if you decided to be a little bit reckless in terms of the sliding challenge, obviously it's still going to be a penalty. But I still think that that's, it was kind of right on the borderline of reckless, but I think that it wasn't clear and obvious, the fact that that was the case. And you guys also got to remember that originally that call was no penalty, so it has to be clear and obvious in terms of overturning that. But like I said, the referees thought that it was clear and obvious, and that's why the penalty was given. And like I said, Gutierrez was able to put that away and give SKC a 2-1 lead. But TFC eventually did fight back for the second time, and they did it literally on the last kick of the game. So as time was winding down and that TFC was literally down to their last hope, Hamilton scores from Tilford and Pozuelo to tie the game up at 2 apiece. And if you're Sporting KC, that has to be absolutely infuriating and absolutely heartbreaking to concede a goal late in and drop 2 points in this game. Shots in this game, TFC had 14 shots compared to 9 that SKC had. 5 shots on goal compared to 4 that SKC had. 8 shots off target compared to 3 that SKC had. 1 shot that was blocked compared to 2 SKC had. And both teams had 50% possession. And like I said, Sporting KC, they had the lead until the very end, and it looked like they were for sure going to walk out with all 3 points at BMO Field, but they concede at the last minute. And anytime when you concede at the last minute, whether if you're the road team or the home team, it always felt absolutely deflating, and it always feel like it's more of a loss than actually a good result for Sporting KC. So yeah, they'll definitely be very frustrated the fact that they dropped 2 crucial points in this game when they could have got all 3 points. And as for TFC, while this does continue their winless streak and that they still have not got a win since May, hopefully this last minute equalizer for them and them getting at least a point out of this game will kind of give them a little bit of a positive kind of vibe heading into the Gold Cup break, because Yeah, ever since the beginning of May, TFC has been absolutely terrible and looked like one of the worst team in the league. And that, there's definitely going to be a lot of question that this team needs to be answered heading into the Gold Cup break. And I think during this transfer window, they need to really think about getting some guys on the attacking end and also on the defensive end. I mean, actually, I know that they are already got Omar Gonzalez to kind of reinforce their defense a little bit, but I just have a feeling they need to get like another attacker or another central midfielder in this team to kind of short up this team, because not only this team at times struggle in terms of defending, but at times they also tends to struggle to score, and most of those time that they struggle to score is because they don't put their chances away. So they need to find a attacker that is not only a lethal finisher but also a guy that can score goals, and trying to put a little bit less pressure off of Josie Altidore, that it seems like he's kind of the only goal scorer that they have for this team. But moving on, in the next match, and in a game that also ended in a 2-2 draw, was the Quakes and Dallas. And, there isn't a lot of time when the Quakes when the Quakes get a draw that I feel very frustrated, and I feel like we dropped 2 points in a game. But this one was the case where I really thought that the Quakes dropped 2 points in this game, and that they missed a huge opportunity to head into the Gold Cup break above the red line. And a lot of the fact that, or pretty much the reason why we weren't able to get all 3 points in this game, was because Daniel Vega had an absolute shocker, and he commits probably the worst goalkeeping howler from this season, or even in MLS history, pretty much. But for the first 25 minutes, I thought the Quakes were by far the better team. I mean, FC Dallas, they was basically just sitting back and hoping to try to catch us on the counter, which there was little success to that. And we look very disjointed on the attack in the first 25 minutes. And then in the 27th minute, that's when the goalkeeping howler happened. And yeah, I mean, there's not much I really need to describe in terms of what happened in this. I mean, I'm pretty sure all of you have already watched what happened. It was just a simple back pass to Vega that I don't know how in the world that ball just kind of went through his leg and ends up into the back of the net. And what's frustrated about that, besides the embarrassing goalkeeping howler, is that FC Dallas really didn't threaten at all, and probably shouldn't have deserved a 1-0 lead at that point. I mean, yes, they did had 2 free kicks just outside of the box, but it was mainly because we just commit some silly fouls, and the referee called some very kind of borderline fouls right outside of the box. And in some ways, we basically kind of like just gifting FC Dallas the chance to potentially get the first goal, and eventually we did with this goalkeeping howler. But the good thing about the Quakes is that despite the fact that we committed this goalkeeping howler, they actually respond pretty well, and they actually had some chances at the end of the first half to get the equalizer. And this is something that I think has been a common theme with the Quakes, where every time when they face adversity, most of the time they've been able to respond. And that is something I have not been able to say about this Quakes team for a very long time. Like, if this was the situation last year, I have a feeling the Quakes would have not only lost this game, but they would have get absolutely blowout in this game. Like, they would have just absolutely capitulated after this goalkeeping howler. And yeah, I mean, they would have lost this one by a huge margin. But in this game, that was not the case. And throughout this season, that has not been the case, where the Quakes just quickly capitulated. Well, besides maybe the first month of the season, where they kind of show the same thing that happened last season when they capitulate after they face adversity. During this whole run, I have not seen the Quakes face any kind of kind of adversity that they just completely capitulated. So that is one good thing that I have seen with this team, besides the fact that they're on this amazing run ever since the end of March. And that kind of response and that kind of just resilient eventually paid off in the second half when Wando, of course, immediately scores from Eriksson and Lopez, and that was literally 1 minute heading into the second half. Then Eriksson himself scores from Tommy Thompson, and originally this goal was originally the referee didn't give this goal because when this ball was clear off the line, it looked like it didn't cross the line. But when they go to VAR to look to see whether or not if this ball crossed the line before Matt Hedges cleared that one away, they saw that that ball did cross the line before Hedges cleared it away. It was a good goal. So the Quakes, of course, were up 2-1 in this game, but unfortunately they weren't able to hold on, as 12 minutes later, Atuheni, who just got subbed on and made his first MLS game, or play in his first MLS game, scored 12 minutes into his debut to tie the game up for FC Dallas. And after that, there wasn't really much that has happened. Like, you know, it feels like both team after that was just happy with the fact that they can get a point out of this game before heading into the Gold Cup break, and that is exactly what happened. And in terms of the shots in this game, the Quakes had 15 shots compared to 11 that Dallas has. 4 shots on goal compared to 2 that Dallas has. 9 shots off target compared to 5 that Dallas had. And 2 shots that was blocked compared to 4 that Dallas had. And 58% possession compared to 42% possession that Dallas had. But like I said, with the Quakes, I really felt like we dropped 2 points at home and that we missed an opportunity to go above the red line, because of the fact that if you eliminate this howler that Vega had, we would have won this one 2-1, and we would have head into the Gold Cup break above the red line. But, you know, there's nothing you can do about that. Hopefully this game, you know, if the Quakes are in a situation at the end of the season where they miss the playoffs by 1 point, hopefully this one will not come back to haunt them, and that this is the game where if we did not commit that howler from Vega, we would have got all 3 points and we would have made the playoffs. And speaking of playoffs, do I still think the Quakes are going to be making the playoffs? I don't know. Maybe. Okay? I think from now on, from the rest of the season, whenever I talk about the Quakes, I will have like a small kind of talk about whether or not if I still think the Quakes are going to make the playoffs. For me right now, it's still a maybe because of the way how the Western Conference is, and that this is one of those games that if we want to make the playoffs, we have to win against a Dallas team that is very kind of depleted in this one. Next up, the Union. What a comeback this was for the Union. And I guess if there is a new MLS award called the Substitute of the Year, where a player comes off the bench and make an instant impact for his team, I think Elzinho is going to definitely win this award, because for the second week in a row, he made an instant impact with the Union, and he was the reason why the Union was able to get all 3 points. But unlike last week against Minnesota, where of course he assisted that winning goal after coming off the bench, I think this was even more impressive because he absolutely turned this game on its heads. But in the first half, the Red Bulls were by far the better team, and it was in some way a very one-sided first half, with the Red Bulls having all their chances, and they were rewarded with 2 goals in the first half. First came in the 29th minute when Kaku scores from Duncan and Jackowski. Then White scores from Mio to make it 2-0. And the Red Bulls were basically just dead and buried. Like, you know, there was just no way that at halftime you would think that the Union would have any shot to not only get 3 points, but even get a point out of that game. But that's when Elzinho came on in the 53rd minute, and the rest was history, pretty much. And at the hour mark, he made an impact of getting the Union back within 1 goal when he assisted the goal from Montero to make it 2-1 in favor of the Red Bulls. And then 50 seconds after he assisted that goal, He scores from Bedoya to tie the game up for the Red Bulls, and Talon Energy Stadium went absolutely berserk after this goal was scored. And, one of the things that I always love about Elzinho is that he always tends to love to try to take on defenders with his nice skill move. But one of the reasons why he is not considered a world-class player, and why he's never going to consider a world-class player, is that sometimes he just takes way too much dribble and takes way too much touches off the ball because of the wonderful skill move that he has. But in this case, that was not the case, where he did his classic kind of skill move on a couple of defender, but instead of just kind of over kind of commit and just put way too much touches in the ball in the box, he was able to coolly slots it home to the left side of the post. And I have a feeling that could definitely be go up as the goal of the week. Like, that goal with him just kind of completely took on the Red Bulls defender and completely just made him look silly. And then he's able to have a cool head to finish that one to the top left of the corner. Yeah, there is no doubt that is definitely going to be right up there in terms of potentially winning the goal of the week this week. But he wasn't done in this game, because in the 72nd minute, he scored the winning goal after Montero actually missed a penalty. So the Union actually won a penalty, and Montero basically stepped up. He missed the penalty. Robles basically saved it. But there was Elzinho, who was in the right place at the right time to slot that one back into the empty net. And just like that, the Union complete an improbable comeback to basically go from 2-0 down to now leading 3-2, and in the end they were able to hold on for a 3-2 win. And I mean, I couldn't believe what I saw in this game. Like, I thought when I saw the Red Bulls winning 2-0, and the way that I watched how that first half went, there was no way that Philly was able to come back from this game. And the fact that Elzinho just put on probably his best game ever as a Union, and just completely turned this game on its heads by himself, that is absolutely incredible. And at the end of the game, in terms of the shots in this one, the Union had 17 shots compared to 8 that the Red Bulls had. 7 shots on goal compared to 4 that the Red Bulls had. 6 shots off target compared to 3 that the Red Bulls had. 4 shots that was blocked compared to 1 that the Red Bulls had. And 58% possession compared to 42% that the Red Bulls had. And really, as I mentioned at the end of this, I have a feeling Elzinho is going to win Player of the Week. Like, there is no way how in the world he does not win Player of the Week when he just single-handedly just turned this game around on his heads. And I know probably Maxi Morales might consider be the Player of the Week because he had that free assist and that goal against NYCFC, and he was a big part in that blowout victory. But you're talking about Elzinho just single-handedly turned the game on his heads and just pretty much carried this Union team on this comeback and winning this one 3-2. There is no way in the world that he is not going to be the Player of the Week this week. But moving on into the final game of this week is Colorado. So just like their name, Rapids, they are definitely in a rapid run right now. I mean, Colorado, I would have told you that heading into the Gold Cup break that they would win 4 out of the last 5 games, and that they're now within 4 points of the playoff line. And if I would have told you this after their historic horrid start in the season, you would have told me that I am just crazy. Like, I don't know anything about MLS, and that is just some kind of fantasy that I am dreaming of. But here we are. The Rapids, they won their 4th game out of their last 5, and now unbeaten in 5 games and only 4 points out of the playoff line. And although, in this game where they were able to get the only goal from Kamara and Price, and that this was not the most prettiest game from them, they still were able to get all 3 points, and in some way they kind of took a page out of Minnesota book. Like Minnesota this season, and especially doing this very bad run that they've been in, this has been what Minnesota has been kind of doing, where they don't necessarily play well, but somehow they've been able to find a way to score a goal, and Colorado basically just basically just copy and paste in this game, where they were able to just get the only goal from Kamara and Price and get all 3 points in this one. Now, in terms of shots in this game, Colorado had 10 shots compared to 9 that Minnesota has, 3 shots on goal compared to 2 that Minnesota has, 5 shots off target compared to 4 that Minnesota has, 2 shots that was blocked compared to 3 that Minnesota has, and Colorado only had 38% possession compared to 62% possession. But still, at the end of the day, they got all 3 points. And like I said, it is incredible, the fact that they're only 4 points out of the playoff line. And that it is incredible that a month ago, we were talking about them potentially having the worst season in MLS. And now becoming a team that could to make the playoffs. I mean, that's MLS for you. I mean, as if you're a team that goes on a good run, or, you know, start to win bunch of games in a row, or just kind of go on a run that Colorado is going right now, you could easily get back into the playoff picture. And I have no doubt right now that Colorado, not only they are a team that look like a respectable MLS team, but this is a team that could be a playoff contender heading into the end of the season. But yeah, that being said, that is pretty much it for all the games that I have reviewed. Let me know in the comments below, what do you think of these games? And I am so glad that I got to the end of this video, because I'm kind of a little bit exhausted there, and that now we do have an 18-day break before the next game. Or is it 18-day break? No, technically it's actually 14-day break, because MLS action does return on the 23rd of June. But yeah, we are going to have a 2-week break before I do a preview. So what I'm going to do for this 2 weeks is that I am going to try and talk a little bit about the Gold Cup, and then finally started that Throwback Thursday series that I've been wanted to start from last week, but I was unfortunately unable to do it. And also talk about maybe who could potentially be making the playoffs this season, and that which team is definitely in serious trouble heading into the second half of the season. But yeah, hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you do, make sure you guys leave a like, smash that subscribe button, and yeah, I of course will see you guys next time.